seats, please. Well, good morning, everyone. It's nice for you to be here. Welcome to the Greater Binghamton Airport. It's my pleasure to be here today for the signing of this Flood Recovery Grant Program. We are joined by a lot of very important people from our community who played a vital role in this recovery. We have with us Broome County Executive Patrick Brennan, DMV Commissioner Barbara Fiala, Senator Jim Seward, Assemblyman Crouch and Assemblyman Lopez. Our Broome County District Attorney Jerry Mullen is here. Maine Supervisor George Luddington, Town of Conklin Supervisor Debbie Preston, I should say County-elect Debbie Preston, County Executive-elect, Town of Festal Supervisor Peter Andresen, Owego Mayor Ed Arrington, Chair of the Broome County Legislature Jerry Marinich is here, Minority Leader of the County Legislature Mark Whalen, Marty Sauerbrey, Tioga County Legislature. And special thanks to the airport and the First Air Group for hosting us here today. And also welcome to so many of our first responders and community members. Well, it's been quite a time, hasn't it been? This year of the southern tier and areas across the state were devastated by two storms, Hurricane Irene and Tropical Storm Lee. Businesses and homes were washed away, farms were destroyed. And since that time, our community has come together like never before. We are committed to becoming better and stronger as we rebuild. I want to personally thank Governor Cuomo and his whole team for all their support and assistance during this difficult time. Governor, you were the first on the ground, and you're still with us here today. There's been someone from your operation here throughout these very months. We really appreciate it. You made sure that we received essential federal aid and funding as soon as the floods were over. And I want to thank you for your commitment to our community and for having me say a few remarks today. The $50 million contained in this bill, along with assistance to BAE and to Amphenol, will help businesses, families, farms, towns, and villages recover. I'm honored to have played a small role in this legislation that will help us get back on our feet. Several bills that I sponsored, along with my colleagues, were included in this legislation, very similar to what we did back in 2006. On behalf of all of my Assembly colleagues who are here, I want to thank you for helping us in this big way. Not only Broome County, but Tioga and Warren County and Ulster, Shenango, across the whole state. Really, dozens of counties were affected by this. And we are so grateful for the assistance that we'll be getting the details from today from my colleague, Senator Tom Libous, the Deputy Majority Leader. He'll be coming up and saying a little bit more about the process. Tom, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Donna, Assemblywoman Lupardo. It was indeed a pleasure to work with you on this very important legislation we're going to talk about. Governor, before I make some remarks, I want to know that we're in the town of Maine, and the Maine NWO football team, Class A New York State champs. So we're going to be bringing them to Albany for a ceremony and giving them the proper respect that they deserve. We're very proud of them, and certainly our high school football teams here in the Southern Tier. I want to share with all of you a little bit about leadership, compassion, and friendship. The last year in Albany has been a great year for the residents of the state of New York. It's been a great year because we had a new governor take office, and he has shown us the leadership that was lacking for so long in the executive's position, and he's brought the legislature together to accomplish great things for the people of the state. Earlier this year, we had an on-time budget, first one in many, many years. He brought everyone together in a bipartisan fashion. There was no bickering. We put a budget together that was fiscally sound for the first time in many years. That was because of his great leadership in bringing people together. In September, we were devastated by the flood. He was here immediately to work with all of you And he came in and sat in the command center for many, many hours and made sure that everything was working and coming together so that we could help the residents of the Southern Tier. Again, showing leadership, but yet compassion for the people of this area, for the difficulty they were going through. This week, we put together a package that he will sign today, $50 million to help flood victims, to help farmers, to help grants, to help farmers, to help small businesses. He helped work to make a SAVE major corporation that employs some 1,400 families, feeds 1,400 families and their relatives, to stay here in the Southern Tier. This bill that he is going to sign today shows that the compassion that he had for the community, the leadership that he showed for the community, never wavered. He came back many times to help us. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our friend, the great governor of the state of New York, Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's truly my pleasure to be back, especially at a time when it's not raining, frankly. It really is my pleasure to be back. First, to your Senator, Tom Libous, I want to thank him very much for his kind words, and more, I want to thank him for his great deeds. To me, personally, he has been very kind. I am a rookie governor. This is my first year. So I need some advice from time to time to figure it all out. Albany is not especially a simple place, let's say. It can get a little complicated from time to time. And your senator has been very kind to me to be there and offer me advice and offer me counsel, and always in the spirit of good government. He is from a different political party than I am, and that's okay. We work together for the good of the people, which is what it's supposed to be about. But he's gone out of his way to be helpful and kind to me, and I thank him. And let's give him a round of applause, Senator Tom Libous. He also was masterful in getting this flood package together, which we're going to chat about in a moment. Assemblywoman Donna Lapardo has been a great friend of mine for many, many years. She's a great public servant. Let's give her a round of applause. A former great county executive who I pilfered for state service, now an outstanding commissioner of the Department of Motor Vehicles, Barbara Fiala. And my colleagues from the Assembly who are here today, it's a pleasure to be with all of you. To the first responders who are here, who have done extraordinary service and called out time and time again in very difficult circumstances, thank you, thank you, thank you for all you do. Let's give them a round of applause. We just had an extraordinary week in Albany, in the state government. Extraordinary in the truest sense of the word. I called for what's called an extraordinary session, an extraordinary legislative session, where the legislature comes back and acts in an extraordinary way for the people of the state, and they certainly did. We have a terrible economic crisis in this state. We have a terrible economic crisis in this country. We have a terrible economic crisis that is now worldwide. And we came to the position that if New York is going to rebound, it's going to have to be because New Yorkers come together and we rebound. We're not going to wait for Washington, D.C. to save us. We're going to get to work ourselves. So the legislature came back and we crafted a jobs program for the state of New York that I believe will create tens of thousands of jobs, and probably the most aggressive job creation program that's been passed in modern political history. Part of that job creation program is a tax reform program that is going to bring much needed tax relief to the middle class. Middle class defined as families from $40,000 to $300,000. So that's a very large group of families in this state. And the middle class, believe it or not, listen to this, will pay the lowest rate of taxes since 1953. Lowest rate of taxes since 1953. That's exactly what the middle class needs, and that's exactly what they got. And we also passed a piece of legislation that we're going to sign here today, which is $50 million for flood relief. And this is desperately needed for local governments, for residents, for small businesses who have been ravaged by floods and flood damage and have done a remarkable job, not just in the emergency effort, but also in the rebuilding effort. And I applaud what you have done and the resilience. But this says that, especially at these times, we want to make sure that people have the financial support that they need, and the state is doing everything that it can do to provide that financial support, and that's what this flood package is all about. My last point is this. I'm getting a little reflective that we're coming to the end of the year, and it's my first year. The floods were a terrible, probably the single worst situation that I dealt with as governor, single worst situation for the state over the past year. What we had to deal with from the storms and the floods, and it was repeated over and over. You just recover from one, and then we were dealt another blow. That was the bad news. The good news was it was such an inspiration to see how New Yorkers reacted, and the spirit of community, and how people came together. I was in a home, we were doing flood recovery, and I was in the basement of a home. We had organized a volunteer effort, shoveling mud into a bucket. There was a home that probably had 2 feet of mud in the basement. And we were shoveling out the mud, and volunteers were there to shovel out the mud, and it was terrible work, and it was hard, and there's no neat or easy way to shovel a basement full of mud, right? And there was a woman who was helping and who was next to me, and had been there for many hours and was working very, very hard, and we were chatting about terrible condition of this home and how people were coming together to make a difference. And she said to me, I live down the block. And we spent some time in that basement, and then we were walking down the block, and we were walking together down the block, and I said to her, where do you live? And she said, well, that's my house when we got up to it. Her home had more damage than the home we were working in. And we walked into her house. She had more mud in her basement than the house that we were working in. And the house was, the entire first floor had been underwater. And I looked at her and I said, you have all this work to do in your home, and yet you were down the block helping that homeowner. And she said, that's what neighbors do. That's what neighbors do. And I was just so touched by that woman and her sense of community and her sense of charity. That's New York. That's New Yorkers. We have problems, we have issues, we'll come together, we'll give, we'll cooperate, we believe in community, we believe in one another. This piece of legislation is the state's way of cooperating in that spirit. Not in as powerful a way as that woman did in that basement, but in the best way the state legislature can act. I'd ask my colleagues now to join me at the table for the signing. Thank you. Congratulations.